Yay! I am so excited to introduce you to, I'm so excited to introduce to you Module 16.1, segment lengths and midpoints. Now we're going to geometry, and I just love it because it's so easy. All right, don't forget the essential question. How do you draw a segment and measure its length? Sounds pretty straightforward. First thing you gotta do, you gotta know these words, right? And keep in mind that these are undefined terms. You know what that means? Nobody ever said the meaning of a point is blah blah blah. Nobody ever said what point means or line means or plane means, okay? But throughout history, people have just decided to, you know, think of a point when they see the word point. Okay, so there's no dimension and it's just a dot. A line, nobody ever said a line means this, but everybody just kind of sort of understood that, a line is a line and it goes on both directions. You see the arrow here? It goes both directions forever. It never stops. So, that's why the arrows are here. A plane is a flat surface. So there's no thickness. This is important. There's no thickness and it goes on forever. So it just shows like a little parallelogram here, but really it goes on forever, just kind of like the line. So a line and a plane, it goes on forever. And this is how you write it. If you want to write point P, you write it like that. Line L, it has to be italicized. Plane R, it is a capital R, as you can see over here. Or plane XYZ, you have to pick 3 points in the same plane. And, so these are kind of important, right? And so on the test or some of the questions you would see would be, what are some of the undefined terms and what are some of the defined terms, okay? So I know it sounds really silly, but that is what it is. And then, of course, we have defined terms. These are words that, is pretty much in the math dictionary, okay? So endpoints would be basically these points here. They're called endpoints because the line just stopped right there. So what you see over here is called a segment because it doesn't go on and on and on forever. And this is how you write it. Or, you can go like that. So these are all important stuff. Array has an endpoint and then it goes on and on and on forever on one side. This is really important. So you write it like this, ray PQ or PQ. And when you do that, I don't know if you can't see it, but it's supposed to be like a little arrow over here. Okay, so these are really easy ones. And so if you look over here, it says drag each figure to the term that is suggested. So obviously, what is a point? This looks like a really fat, big point. Array is kind of like the lights because it starts from one point, but it keeps going on and on and on and on forever. A line segment has to be this one because it has an endpoint. There's 2 endpoints, so it's like a stick. A line segment is like a stick. A line is, of course, this one. This is undefined, goes on and on and on forever. And this is a plane. This is also undefined. It's supposed to go on and on and on forever, but they drew a parallelogram, so it's easier for people to understand. And so, of course, you always check your answer, and everything came out to be correct. Yay! And see, look, they ask you stuff like this. Which of the following terms are undefined? Okay, so let me try and remember. What was undefined? Was it a line and a plane and then a point? Yeah, okay, good. So when I first did this, I actually got it wrong because I forgot to put in the plane. I thought plane was defined. Oh well. And then see, they ask you which of them are defined. So you can go ahead and do this on your own. That's the easiest part. I'm so glad it's so easy. Okay, so now let's see. You have a line and you don't know how long it is because, it's really different, like how you measure actually a segment, because this is a line. It goes on and on and on forever. And so you can choose to measure the segment in between G and H right here by using a ruler. And it could be in inches or centimeters or kilometers or meters or millimeters. There's many different units you can use, right? So it's all going to be different numbers, okay? So it's really important that whenever you say something, like it's let's see how long this is. 1, 2, 3. So this is 3 units long, but what is the measure of unit we're using? Oh, you see the little cm? That means it's centimeters, okay? So this is 3 centimeters, but then some people be like, Miss Choi, you're supposed to start from 0 and go all the way up to here, and that's a 4. Yeah, but see, we're not measuring from here. We're measuring from here. So then, yeah, we have to go 4, and then we got to take away the 1. So 4 minus 1 is 3. But you can count 1, 2, 3, right? So this is really important. If you are starting to read the ruler not from the 0, then you have to, find the distance by going the whole thing, the 4, and then minus the 1. I know I just made it complicated, huh? So anyway, they show it to you right here. 4 minus 1, get the absolute value. And so there's more vocabulary words. So again, please take good notes on this section, mostly because you need to, because on the test there's going to be vocabulary words, and it's like kind of silly not to get them right when you can obviously use your notes, right? It's not like you got to memorize them. And then here's really important. This is really important. The segment addition postulate. What does that mean? You don't even need proof to say that this is correct, okay? So these are just stuff that everybody just knows, okay? So what is it? What that means is if you add AB, that's one line, one segment. And then if you add another segment together, which is BC, oh, well, guess what you're going to get? You're going to get the whole thing, which is AC. And that's what it means. You add the 2 segments together and you're going to get the whole thing. That's the segment addition postulate. Okay? So then you can go ahead and work over here. And obviously now from here, it's going to show you, especially if you watch this video, I really want you to, it's going to show you how to draw a segment using a ruler or a straight edge and a compass. And we're going to do this in class. So please watch the video, because if you don't watch it, when everybody else is doing it, you wouldn't be able to do it, right? And it's kind of fun doing this type of things in class, so please make sure you come to class prepared. Oh no, what happened? So if you look over here, here's a question, and it says select a segment MN that is the same length as PQ. So we gotta find something that's the same length as this. You already know, if you had like a ruler, you don't even need a ruler. You can just use your paper to measure it, and you have to find the same length. This is something that I'll just show you how to do in class. It's easier that way. So then the next thing we have to learn is the Pythagorean Theorem, and this is really important. Please write this down. I'm going to highlight it for you. Pythagorean Theorem. Okay, what this basically means is we have a right triangle. This means that side is 90 degrees. Okay, and let's say we have sides A. Let's say we had sides A, B, and C. Well, somebody found out that when you square A, this side right here, okay, when you go A times A, and then you add it to this side right here, B times B, they found out that you get C times C. Okay, and of course we can do an experiment to see if this theorem is actually correct or not. Well, of course it's correct, but it's really fun. How did these people get it? Well, basically, if you were to have a square like this, I know it doesn't look like a square, and the sides are all C, the area of this would be C times C, right? So that area ended up being the same as this area, this square right here with all the sides A, plus that area. And basically, that is how we can prove it. But we would save that for another day. Right now, let's just first write this down and then try and calculate these, okay? I think you learned this in middle school, but we'll still do it because it'll be fun. Okay, so using that, okay, they came out with a formula for the distance, okay? And so it's up to you. Do you want to memorize this, not memorize this? Of course, all the formulas in the world, if you memorize them, it's good, but important thing is that you have to understand it. But let me just show you how to do this, because if you scroll down, it's like a really, really lengthy process, okay? And it's really good for you, so I want you to do it, but I'm gonna also show you. It says determine whether segment PQ and segment RS have the same length. And then we have to justify your answer. That means we have to show proof that they are the same. We can't be like, I used a ruler and they measured the same. We could do that, but I think this question is asking us to do it mathematically, okay? So what we have to do is find point P. What is that? First, you go down and you see the x value is a negative 4. And then you go to the right to find that the y value is a 4. Okay? Oops. And then what do? Now we have to find the points for Q. So let's find Q because that's one line, okay? And Q is at, if I go up, this is 0, -1, -2, comma. And if I go to the side, this is 0, -1, -2, -3, right? Okay, so now we got to figure out how long this is. And so we're going to use the Pythagorean Theorem. Okay, you can pretend that this is like a triangle like this. And if you remember the Pythagorean Theorem, what did you do? It's going to be a squared plus b squared equals c squared, right? And that's how you're going to find it, pretty much. Okay, but anyway, that's an easy way of explaining it using pictures, but then, drawings. But then how would you find out how long this side is? Well, it's going to be 4 minus -3. And so that's basically what it is. 4 minus -3. So of course over here they're using the x values first, and what I'm doing is I'm doing this part first, okay? So there you go. I'm going to go 4 minus -3. Okay, and then that's how long this is. So I'm going to go ahead and square it. Okay, and then I'm going to add that. What am I going to add that to? Of course, this side right over here. Well, how am I going to find out how long this is? Well, I'm going to have to start with this number right here, -4, and then I'm going to have to subtract what? -2. So then basically it's like this, -4 minus -2. Okay, there you go, -4 minus -2. All right, so then now you just have to calculate, because what happens is when you square these two, you're going to get the answer for how long this blue line is, which is c, and it's going to be c squared. Don't forget, we're not going to find c, but we're going to find c squared. Okay, so then what you're going to do is now calculate. So two negatives make a positive, right? So it's going to be 4 plus 3. So that's basically 7 squared, right? 7 squared plus, let's take a look, -4 minus -2. Two negatives again. This is kind of like -1 times -2. So that's plus 2. -4 plus 2, you have to subtract and keep the symbol for the bigger number. So that's going to be -2. Okay, 7 squared is 49. -2 squared means you multiply -2 2 times. So -2 times -2 is +4, and that equals c squared. When you add them together, you get 53, and that's c squared. So look, the length of the blue line is not 53 units long, okay? It's going to be the square root, because how do you undo the square? You gotta find the square root of both sides, okay? So when you find the square root of both sides, okay, this is going to turn into a c, and c is equal to what? Square root of 53. And then let's see if we could simplify the 53. I don't think you could. So how long is segment PQ? Okay, right. So now I'm going to write it here. Segment, or I don't have to write the word segment. I'm just gonna write segment PQ like this, okay? Well, how long is it? Oh, wait. The measure of segment PQ is square root of 53. Alright, so I found out how long this is, but I gotta justify my answer and let people know that they have the same length. So now what do I have to do? I gotta measure how long RS is, right? So that's what I'm gonna do next. I know, Miss Choi. Oh man, why did I do that? Miss Choi, this is too complicated. I know, a lot of students say that. But really, if you know how to do it, it won't be that complicated. You have to trust me on this one. This one just takes practice. So now let's just get rid of all of this because we want to focus on RS. Okay? So same thing. We got to find out the points for R. And if you go down first, it's 0, -1, -2. If you go to the right, it's going to be 0, 1, 2, 3. And then to find the other point S, oops, you're going to first go up, okay, and that's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Now if you go to the left, it's going to be 0 and then -1, right? So we're going to do the same thing. Let's just go ahead and draw that triangle because that's basically where all the formulas come from. If you memorize this and then you just plug it in, that's awesome. I'm so happy for you. All you have to do is follow the steps down here. But I'm just showing you this method, you know, for those of you who don't really understand how to memorize the formula and plug numbers in, even though to me, that is so easy. That's because I'm a teacher, right? So there you go. Anyhow, so now let's figure out. I'm drawing a triangle. I have to because I'm going to use the Pythagorean Theorem. And this formula came from that formula. Okay, so anyway, this is A, this is B, and this is C. And I want to find out how long that is. So I have to start with A squared. So how am I going to find out how long this is? Well, I have to go 3, take away, -1. 3, take away, -1. Okay? So there you go. 3, take away, -1. And then, of course, I gotta square it. So I just switched the colors around. Earlier, I had purple in here, and outside I have blue, right? Doesn't matter. And so A squared plus B squared. And that should equal C squared. And C is the length we're looking for, right? So what is B anyway? So I'm gonna start from here. This is -2. And then I start with -2, and then I gotta subtract what? This number is 4. Right? +4. Yeah, there you go. So now let's do this. 3 plus 1 is 4 squared plus another number squared equals C squared. And then what is in the other parentheses? -2 minus 4 is -6, okay? So now let's get this done. 4 squared is 16. -6 times -6 is 36. That's C squared. When I add them together, it's 52. Uh-oh. Did I do something wrong? No, I didn't. So then I have determined that, okay, so now I gotta find the square root. Okay. So then what happened here? C, the measure of RS, segment RS, is how long? The square root of 52. Actually, I can't really stop here. I gotta simplify the square root of 52. Alright? So that is a whole other process. I'm just gonna show you how to do that here. Don't be sad yet, okay? You can do this. 52 is the same as 4 times 13. 4 is the same as 2 times 2. So as you can see, 52 is the same as 2 times 13, right? So what you're going to do is this one gets to escape. So your answer is 2 square root of 13. That's how you simplify, but you don't need to do that for now. All we need to know was, are these two segments the same length? And according to my calculations, they look very, very similar, but look, they are not the same, and so therefore they are different lengths, okay? All right, so let me just scroll down and check the answer. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, there you go. So PQ is not equal to RS. Okay, therefore, segment PQ and segment RS do not have the same length, and we already proved that, all right? So if you did not understand a thing I said, okay, you can go ahead and watch Mr. Berger. Maybe he's better than me, all right? But if you did understand me, you can go ahead and solve this problem right here, okay, on your own, or I know this problem doesn't show up on your interactive section as of right now, so you can go ahead and use your homework section. Finding a midpoint, because a lot of time has already passed, I'll just tell you really quickly. A midpoint is a point in the middle, another vocabulary word you gotta know. And so if you have a point here and you divided this segment into equal two parts, guess what this thing is called? It's called a segment bisector. Whether it's just a point or a line or a ray or some shape, whatever divides this segment into two equal parts is going to be called a segment bisector. So a segment bisector basically creates a midpoint in a line. Okay? And so there you go. How do you understand midpoints? You can fold the paper in half. Another thing that we could be doing in class potentially. Okay? And so here's another video. And so how are you going to prove that if I have a segment like this, how am I going to prove that this is a segment bisector? Well, you know what? I'm just going to use a ruler, and then I'm going to measure how long this is, and then I'm going to measure how long that is. Okay? And if the blue line and the green line, or blue segment and the green segment measure the same, then we know that this line over here that goes on and on and on forever is a segment bisector. And that's all you have to know. I'm so happy that this section is easy. I know that the calculating part was not that easy, but trust me, you're gonna get it. So that's the same thing that I just talked about. You can use a ruler to figure out if you got the midpoint or not. Of course, there's the midpoint formula, and if you like formulas, you can go ahead and use it. But I like to use common sense, and common sense says what? Well, if you have a line, and then you know that the midpoint is right smack in the middle, isn't it kind of obvious that if you have points x sub 1, y sub 1, and points x sub 2, y sub 2, don't you think it's obvious that to find this point over here, you're going to add these two and then divide it by 2, and that would be here. And if you add these two and divide it by 2, that would be my y point. Well, that's what it says right here. So instead of just trying to memorize it, just try to understand it. Because with the little sub 1s and the little sub 2s, you start getting really confused. Okay? And so, of course, you can use that formula to solve all these questions, but I'm not gonna go over that right now because it will be a waste of time, especially when we have an amazing video done by Mr. Berger. So I really need you to go and watch his videos. I usually don't do what he did if I think he did a great job and I think you understand it. Sometimes he thinks that you're a little bit smarter, or he thinks that you know certain things, so he would skip certain steps, and so then I would explain that part to you, or maybe he explains it a little bit different than I do. But most of his videos are really amazing, so please watch this. It's the waste of my time because you don't like it when my videos get too long, right? So then show that the statement is true if AB has endpoints A, and they already gave you the points, and B. Then the midpoint of AB is the origin. Oh, okay. So then what do we have to do? Well, we got to add these two, divide by 2, add these two, and divide by 2. And then if it ends up being origin means 0, 0. If it ends up being 0, 0, then that is the correct answer. But actually, I did it really fast in my head, and I know that this is the answer. So again, I know that this didn't really help you, but I will help you in class, provided that you were able to pass through that section with the Pythagorean Theorem. Okay, so now let's go to the student version, because you know that I haven't been giving you paper versions, right? So this is the exact same thing. I want you to go in here. This will be the second link in Google Classroom. All the definitions are here. And this is the, not that, but this is the part where I spent a lot of time explaining the Pythagorean theorem to you, so you can find the length. So you can study over here if you like to go over the formulas and all that stuff, okay? So if you are done studying everything in class, we have to do some stuff, okay? So, you know, make sure you try your best to do all your homework and try and work on the evaluate questions over here. These are the ones that where I go into to get your test questions from. So if you can solve as many of them as possible, that's actually really good for you. Okay? All right, so happy learning.